AT and the Mercury will likely be fined because they chose to break the rule. It's looking like Alyssa Thomas and the Phoenix Mercury are going to be fined because she just said nah.
Alyssa Thomas, her partner, who was the high scorer on the Mercury, did decide not to go to the post-game interview, of which the Mercury were fined for her not doing so.
The Phoenix Mercury star is about to pay a price after making the most cowardly move in recent WNBA history. Enormous cost for it. The whole basketball world is talking about this kind of drama, and after hearing what she did, your mouth will drop.
You did this organization dirty. You did the fans dirty. You did your teammates dirty. Our first chance we get.
Imagine this. In what should have been the championship game, you just scored 32 points, pulled down 15 rebounds, and provided 7 assists. The peak of your season, the best player on the court is you, the doubters have been hushed, and you ought to be entering that media room, ready to brag about your commanding performance, with your chest puffed out. However, what does Alyssa Thomas actually do? Rather, she bolts, she practically vanishes, as if she were a basketball magician, but this trick is going to cost her a lot of money.
Alyssa Thomas is one of the physically toughest players in the WNBA, but like, she's charm and soft when it comes to anything else.
Alyssa Thomas was set to have her big moment on Wednesday night at Gamebridge Fieldhouse, and boy, did she perform well on the court. There was nothing that could stop this woman. 32 points at a scorching 63.6%. Shots, 15 rebounds, and the Indiana Fever players appeared to be playing in quicksand. And 7 assists, demonstrating that she was improving everyone around her in addition to receiving hers.
She's got a massive size advantage on Kelsey Mitchell, who has no help, and Thomas makes her pay.
This is when the story takes a very unexpected turn, though, following the display of numbers that would lead all scorers and record her first 30-point performance, making even the greatest stars envious. Alyssa Thomas made the most unprofessional decision of the season. When it came time for professional athletes to be required to appear in the media, Thomas was nowhere to be found when it came to acting like professionals.
Obviously, she did not want to answer questions about DeWanna Bonner, which, you know, I don't have a problem with people dating on the same team, but when it does enter the game, that's when it's like, wait, I think we have to, reassess the situation.
People, we're talking about a whole disappearing act here. She is dominating on the court in one moment. The next minute, before you can say media obligations, she pulled a Houdini and vanished from the building. The cameras were rolling, the reporters were waiting, and Thomas, most likely, she was halfway there already. To the team bus.
When it comes to Alyssa Thomas, this was just ridiculous. This whole scenario was absolutely ridiculous, and this whole scenario is something that not that she caused, not that necessarily DeWanna caused for herself. Like the booing and everything, DeWanna brought that in herself. Let's be completely real. Even Nate Tibbetts was just like, well, yeah, this is sport.
Let's now discuss the significance of this, because some of you may be asking yourself, so what? She skipped talking to certain reporters. No, this is about basic respect for the league that pays your salary and professional standards. The WNBA has very precise regulations. They don't play around with this stuff. The league's 2025 media access policy mandates that each team provide, within 10 minutes of the final, their head coach and 2 players, the top scorer and a crucial contributor. Buzzer, this isn't a recommendation, it's not optional, and you can't choose to forego it because you're having a poor day. It is required. Nate Tibbetts, the Mercury coach, arrived and performed his duties with professionalism.
To be honest, I don't have a big issue with Alyssa Thomas clapping back to people saying things to her or DeWanna Bonner or anything. I don't think it's the best look as a professional athlete, but I do understand that this type of thing happens.
Other Mercury players carried out their responsibilities with professionalism. However, the team's top scorer, the woman who just played the game, the veteran who is meant to serve as an example for younger players. Throughout her life, she came to the conclusion that she was exempt from the rules. Fans completely lose out on this kind of entitled conduct. Their thoughts, and with good reason. It is not possible to have it both ways. You can't have the star, the large contract, and the attention. Treatment, then, like every other professional athlete in the world, flee and hide when it's time to face the music. The entire world, this is where the narrative becomes even more dramatic. For Thomas, this was no ordinary game. DeWanna Bonner, her girlfriend, returned to Indianapolis following her resignation on the Indiana. Earlier in the season, a fever.
We all expected this. I even called it out before the game in my live. But somehow, booing DeWanna Bonner has become such an issue.
Yes, Thomas was emotionally invested since the fans she left behind were jeering her spouse.
I'm sorry, like, you can't have all the smoke. You cannot be there chirping with fans the whole game. You cannot be allegedly telling fans DeWanna chose to join a real basketball team. You cannot be saying stuff like that and then hide.
When Bonner joined the game, Fever supporters pummeled her, and Thomas was seen engaging in intense arguments on camera with supporters who were berating Bonner for abandoning their team. Let's be clear about this, Thomas talked the whole game garbage to admirers who were understandably offended by her girlfriend's unethical departure from Indiana. Then, in spite of her outstanding performance, she chose to flee like a coward when her team lost. The irony is just astounding. When things got hard, Bonner gave up on the Fever, and now Thomas is giving up her media duties when things become unpleasant. Unprofessional behavior seems to run in the family.
You know or follow sports in like the slightest. You don't even have to be a fanatic to understand boos come with the territory. I have never seen a season without boos.
For Thomas and the Mercury organization, this is when things start to become really interesting. Games are not played by the WNBA when it comes to these infractions, the penalty is going to be severe and costly. League etiquette is absolutely brutal when it comes to these stuff. Teams who violate media policies risk increasing fines, and we're not talking about cash. This is where things shift. These penalties are intended to cause pain so that players may reconsider engaging in such antics. Once more, they're going to be hidden in the wallet, so the Mercury front office is probably upset right now due to their star player's decision to behave like a youngster. Are you curious about what true leadership looks like? Take a look at how Caitlin Clark responds to these circumstances. The Indiana Fever star encounters antagonistic spectators, receives a lot of hard fouls, is under a lot of pressure every night, and guess what? She consistently appears in the media. Accessibility, whether the game is good or horrible, Clark handles the media with poise and professionalism because she knows what being a professional athlete entails. That's what separates a real superstar from someone who simply believes they are unique. Clark has transformed the WNBA, attracted millions of new supporters, and is under greater scrutiny than any athlete in the history of women's basketball. However, she never avoids her obligations. She takes responsibility, responds to difficult issues, and represents her team in the league with respect. Just once, when fans jeer at her, Clark doesn't become upset and leave. She fulfills her commitments to the media. When she doesn't win games, she definitely doesn't let her personal ties to interfere with her work judgment. That's what sets genuine superstars apart from imposters who believe they should be given preferential treatment. That kind of professionalism might teach Thomas something instead of having tantrums when she doesn't always get her way. The blatant hypocrisy of Thomas's actions is what exacerbates the entire situation. This is the same player that talks about supporting other players and sticking together as a league. She has been outspoken about the WNBA's unity and professionalism. However, when it comes time to put those ideals into practice, there is no sign of her. You cannot ignore your responsibilities while preaching about league unity and professional standards. The time when you're grieving over a loss. Leadership is not like that. That's how someone acts who believes that everyone is subject to the rules but themselves.
It wasn't just like just normal smoke. It wasn't just normal beef. It was what people from the country will call Dublin. She had the big schmuck. Like, she absolutely had all the beef for.
The fan response has been incredibly harsh, and Thomas is deserving of all the criticism. Fans have been criticizing this cowardly behavior on social media. People are legitimately inquiring, how can you post monster numbers, talk trash throughout the game, and then flee when it's time to respond to inquiries about your performance? But when you take the timing into account, it becomes even worse. This took place in front of the Indiana Fever supporters, who, earlier in the season, were already furious about Bonner's deception. In essence, Thomas selected a fight with a whole fan base, lost the game in spite of her best efforts, and then fled when it came time to deal with the fallout. The image of Thomas grinning at the crowd during the whole game, only to vanish when the cameras began rolling for media coverage, is going to damage her reputation for a long time. Highlight reels frequently feature this type of behavior. As an illustration of what a professional athlete shouldn't do, this is what makes the situation even more terrible for the Mercury organization. This season, they have realistic hopes of winning the championship. This group was assembled for competition for a title, and they hired Thomas as an experienced leader who was meant to assist them in navigating the moments of intense pressure during a championship run. However, champions don't flee from hardship. Champions don't neglect their professional commitments as a result of their grief over a loss. Teams that manage every circumstance with skill win championships. Professionalism and elegance. Thomas recently demonstrated that she might not be able to handle the pressure There must be a lot of anger in the Mercury locker room right now. Although her teammates arrived and completed their tasks, they now had to cope with the distraction and humiliation brought on by the immaturity of their key players. That is unfair to them. And you wouldn't expect someone who earns a lot of money to be a leader. Even more annoying is because this sets a poisonous precedent for the entire company. If Thomas is able to avoid media attention, what message does she convey to younger athletes because she is upset about how fans are responding to her girlfriend? The next time someone plays poorly or receives criticism, what will happen? The front desk of Mercury inquired. To be wondering if they can rely on Thomas during pivotal playoff situations if she can't even handle media obligations following a fantastic solo performance. The irony of the entire circumstance is flawless. Thomas got into a verbal altercation with supporters and spent the entire game supporting her girlfriend, who had quit on a team, who, after witnessing her team's defeat despite her incredible performance, were understandably distraught and made the decision to flee from the precise responsibility she ought to be imparting to Bonner.
That someone who left a team and left the team in a lurch, like DeWanna Bonner left the Indiana Fever in a time of adversity when multiple players were injured, they had to sign hardship contracts, and instead of saying, hey, this isn't working out, after 9 games, mind you, did not give it much time, 9 games was it, that's all she played with the Indiana Fever, asking for a trade and not traveling with your team after asking for something to be worked out.
She could have entered the media area and demonstrated her amazing 32-point performance. Genuine leadership, rather. She let her feelings for fans' reactions to Bonner's disrespectful departure to cloud her judgment and caused herself the story's antagonist. When personal drama gets in the way of work, this is what happens. Obligations. Thomas had every advantage. A professional night, an opportunity to tell the tale, a chance to demonstrate her over the noise, but she couldn't handle the pressure and made the narrative about her shameful exit rather than her basketball genius. Alyssa Thomas's awful choice demonstrates that she is equally as unprofessional as her girlfriend, who gave up on the Fever. You can't stand up for someone who leaves their team and then leaves again. Your own professional responsibilities when things become awkward. The penalty she will get is unquestionably worthy, and perhaps it will show her and Bonner that professional conduct is necessary for professional athletics. Always, please share your opinions below. Do you believe Thomas should receive the punishment that is being meted out?